I think what a lot of businesses where they get stuck and where they need some direction is like the checklists are one thing, and yeah, I agree. It's a first step. You have to document your processes. Um, but again, back to the idea that like a checklist is something that you walk through and tick off. It's a compliance related document or a process, a documented process, but it's not an assessment of whether or not the person can actually do something competently. And so how does a business go from I've got my processes documented, which will continue to grow and evolve over time for sure, to I've got training that actually helps my team members do their job more competently, gain skills, and I have some way of actually measuring that that is the case and
Yeah.
demonstrating that this is effective training and it is leading to a higher performing team.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, that is like just that's why you hire an instructional designer, right? Like that is the core job of what an instructional designer does. It does add up to just another point on the checklist, but you in terms of how people would do their job, in terms of how we measure that performance, like these would be the exact kind of measures that you would go out there and try to get, right? You would look at, okay, what are, maybe some online assessments we could do. We can do like what are some in-person assessments? What are some, ongoing measures that we can collect over the next, couple of months related to this person's performance, and then turn it into an ongoing thing where you're regularly checking in, right? I do think that is, once you get beyond the checklist, where do we usually see the question is, uh, are companies incentivized to go? How far down the road are they incentivized to go? How robust do they build out their training programs? And, not maybe not everybody needs all the way down to, to that level, right? I think a lot of it comes down
Yep.
to at some point there is, we're starting to structure like this extra effort, right? The learner is now expected to fill out an online quiz, or they're expected to do an exam of some sort, or they're expected to, actually go out and do it and be observed and maybe even have video evidence and photo evidence and stuff like that, right? And I think these are all things that are now very they're not out of reach. They're relatively standard, and they're things that can now be applied. And I think it's more that incentive structure to, how to get people to, to build a system around this, right? So if we started off with checklists and it's one line, now it becomes okay, it's multiple, it's actually we have photograph and we have documentation and we have their quiz answers and we have a signature from their training manager. And then here's 2 months of performance data, right? So I think that ends up becoming much more robust. I think it's a much more, as we're getting into a situation where the person that is working there, and this is, I think, where incentives really do come in, right? Are you checking this off because you have to submit this to the government later? Are you checking this off because this person really does the same 3 steps every hour, every day, and really that's all they need to know? And then I feel like if we're moving in a direction where um, individual people, they're not expected to just be robots anymore, and everybody is sort of a problem solver. Everybody has to be able to react and to new situations and things like that. You're starting to get into that situation where maybe it is better to have employees that are able to think on their feet. They're able to think big picture about the overall goals. Maybe they're able to come up with new solutions and things like that, and they want to be able to build that up in their career. They want to have their performance tracked. They want to have new opportunities for training and things like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess what it boils down to at the end of the day is if we're talking about incentives. I mean, what is the incentive for a business to go through the trouble of building out said system? Um, and at the end of the day, as far as I can tell, is it's just improving business performance. A high functioning team leads
Um,
to better results at the end of the day. I mean, like, what is the incentive? What is the incentive to go beyond checklists to actual training, assuming it's needed, assuming it's not somebody that's doing the same repetitive task 400 times and you train them once and it's pretty self-evident, or the environment is designed in such a way that it's impossible to screw it up. Um, you know, whether the incentive is less injuries at work, or on the job from the team members, or the incentive is you onboard people more effectively, you take less manager and administrator time tracking things, whether the incentive is you want higher sales in your business, or you want fewer customer complaints, or whatever. I mean, the end of the day, um, there is the potential for, depending on where you're starting, any and all of those things to be impacted by the quality of your training.